of, let's go boar hunting because there's a slight danger of getting hurt, but the chances of that are, I know that's a terrible analogy, but I mean that's
how people thought back then. It was
exactly right.
You went to war; it was just a bit of a holiday.
I don't think people imagined in their mind what it was like to be on the receiving end of being on a machine gun. They should have perhaps asked some Sudanese people, and they would have been able to explain to them in great detail what it's like to lose 10,000 men in a day.
Oh, it was just, and the way that they shot that, like these guys are just jumping up with only their bayonets. They didn't even have bullets.
No, you know why? Do you know why they didn't have...
No, I didn't. I actually was going to ask you before this started, so I'm going to have to ask you and show my ignorance.
Are you ready
Paul?
for this? The reason that was given was that they didn't want accidents where some of the men would accidentally shoot their fellow comrades. Yes, that's correct.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
But they would have been able to shoot. These guys got up out of the trenches and were shooting.
Do you know the distance between the two trenches that they had to cover?
100 yards?
No, not even that.
Not even that.
27 metres.
Oh, my gosh.
Most men didn't make it past metre number 4.
Well, he said some of them weren't making it past 5. Yeah, they weren't making it past 5 metres.
That's right. It was just they were heaped up at the lip of the trenches.
So you had to climb over your mates to even get out.
Yes. You see, the machine guns, it was shown in the movie that machine guns are shooting straight on. But if you can think for a moment, if you've got a trench laid out in front of you, the machine guns, there were machine guns in the middle, but the machine guns cross over, and it's called enfilade fire, where they are shooting diagonally into the mass. And what happens if you've got a line of men and you're shooting at an angle, you have a thicker target.
Oh,
the
yes,
men are lined up in much more densely than if they're coming at you 2 feet across. That's right. And so what happens when you're spraying those bullets, you can't miss. You're just seeing a wall of man, and you simply can't miss. It's just like a paintbrush rolling over the wall, and they can't miss. And the machine guns themselves are held to a certain distance, about chest height, and it's just simply a case of moving from left to right, right to left. There's no aiming involved, no aiming required, and the rifles simply pick off whoever's left. Yep.
It's funny because I hadn't seen this film for a long time.
Yep.
So last time I watched it, I was quite young, and it's funny because when I've gone back to watch this, I've had to think about it. And I went, well, I didn't really like Mel Gibson's character. The first time I watched it.
Right.
Young Pip didn't.
Yep.
And I watched it again. I went, wow, Mel Gibson looks really young there. And it's funny because you're watching his character, and he's this guy who's trying to, get money, and he hasn't got anything, and he's trying to sneak out of hotels before paying them and things like that. And if at first you think, oh, he's a terrible person, and he's just, when he's with his infantry buddies, they're all just, using and abusing and whatever. And then every time he's with Archie Hamilton, it's almost like he's trying to strive to be better, because Archie's such a, I'm here because I want to be, do my part, and I want to do my best, and I want to be, he's a very likable sort of fellow.
Well, do you know what the character is actually based on? The character is actually based as a modern-day conduit to their mindset. They put him in the movie from a more modern-day perspective, whereas he understands a little bit of, even though he's not supposed to, he understands that there's going to be massive slaughter, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And that's why...
Which character are you talking about?
Mel Gibson's character.
Okay, sorry.
I'll tell you about Mark Lee's character in a moment, because I watched a very good... did quite a bit of research on this one.
Oh, did you hear what happened to him? Mark Lee, the actor himself. Yeah.
What happened to him? I didn't get that far.
I thought you were just about to tell me about that.
No, tell me about what happened to him.
It's funny because I was talking to my mum.
Yes.
And she goes, what movies are you doing this week? And I said, we're doing Gallipoli.
Yes.
And she went, that poor Mark Lee. And I went, what about Mark Lee? And she said, not long after he shot this film, he had a car accident and became a paraplegic.
Oh, really? And that's why.
No, not a paraplegic. A vegetable. He actually
No, that's not true.
No, whole. She said he had a car accident.
A quadriplegic.
It might have been that.
Not vegetable.
No, I shouldn't say vegetable. It's a complete different thing. I think she said that first, and then she corrected herself. My apologies.
Pip,
he had a car accident.
We must strive for ableist language.
I strive for any sort of language.
Whatever word you can get into your mouth, you'll be happy with.
Blah, 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 blah.
That's all right.
He had a car accident.
Yes.
And it was. She goes, it was very sad because obviously he's not walking anymore, not sprinting anymore.
Okay. No. Well,
What were you going to say?
Well, he had a little bit of a. Okay. Well, first of all, they really wanted to get Mel Gibson in for that.
For Archie Hamilton's character.
No. For his character, they had
Frank Dunn
in mind all the time when they were putting the script together in the first place. They had him in mind because Peter Weir had met him earlier on.
That he's done that role.
Yes, and he liked him and he put him in his back pocket and kept an eye on him, sort of thing. But Archie Hamilton's, when they were putting the movie together, he was reading from C.W. Bean. Now, C.W. Bean was the Australian official war historian, and I know you know this because
we've got those things on our bookshelf.
Yes, you will have heard about this ad nauseum, Pip. But there is a section there, in a small section, where C.W. Bean observed a young man running across the trench, and it was spoken. I should have got the quote. I should have written it down, but it's as if it was a schoolboy at a race, at a foot race. And he dropped his rifle and he was just running for the trench, and he was just hammering away. And that really got to him, and because what they were going to do originally was have Archie Hamilton's character leap off the boat and get shot.
Oh.
And so they had to rewrite the whole movie.
Can I say it's much better what they've done?
Oh, yes, no, that's right.
And I actually really, watching it now the second time, I've actually gone, I can see.
The whole film was going to be all the trouble of getting to Gallipoli and then just leaping off the boat and getting shot.
That would have been a real anticlimax.
Yes.
Because they don't even get to the front line until an hour and 12 minutes into the film.
Yes. But that's why when he read about the neck, you see, because it was going to be at the Gallipoli landing at the start, because the neck campaign, the neck fight was quite a ways in.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I'm so glad he didn't do that.
Well, so was he, and he recognised that it was a far better ending. And to this day, it is considered one of the strongest endings of a movie ever written.
It was amazing. Yes. I mean, terribly sad.
Oh, devastating.
But it's real. Not surreal, it's real.
Yes. It had Tommasio Albione's Adagio for strings playing all the way through it, which is...
No, there was parts in the film that had no music at all for huge sections. And I think the difference between the sections with music and the sections where there's complete silence made it really interesting. And it stood out to me because it made the scene a bit stronger.
Yep.
So I actually really liked that.
Yep.
Because there's I think there's almost 20 to 30 minutes with no music whatsoever.
It's not the music that's been played, but the silence is in between.
Yes. And I really enjoyed that. So I actually enjoyed the second. Oh, well, I would have Pip enjoyed the second watch.
Right.
So.
And you know what? I was watching it. I really enjoyed it. And I watched it on Anzac Day for that extra level of poignancy. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought it really stood up. It's still a crisp, good film. And you know what? It looks quite modern. Like all the cinematography and everything like that, you don't pick it as a 1980s film, do you?
No, you don't. I still reckon it looks great.
It still looks great, and the acting is crisp. Mel Gibson does a superb job.
He does an excellent job.
He does, as does Mark Lee.
Yes.
They're both very authentic people.
There wasn't a bad performance at all.
No.
They all felt really...
Yes. Look, it's a terrific film. It really is.
So how many stars would you give it, Paul?
Well, I think, it gets an extra point for how good it looks now.
It's aged well.
It's aged very well. In fact, I think it's probably the best aging film. The only other one that I can think that ages as well is probably Star Wars.
I didn't even think of that.
Because it also ages well. Okay, yes, it's had a little bit of, a bit of a touch-up, whereas Gallipoli doesn't. Gallipoli's got no touch-up whatsoever, and it still looks good. No, it doesn't. It's timeless.
8.5.
8.5.
I'd give it an 8.
I thought you might. I thought you might. I thought. I wonder how you'd like it because I know you don't really like your war films that much.
I don't mind a war film if it's done in a tasteful way, because some of them can get a bit over violent, and I know war is violent.
Yep.
But you still need that storyline. You still need it to flow. It still needs to look good, sound good. You want to have a reason for sitting there and watching it. You want to be invested.
A lot of people have put a lot of truck into this film, and they say it is possibly the best Australian film ever made. And I can understand why people would say that. Quite frankly, I can. For some reason,
a lot of people don't watch it. I can't
think of another film that holds up as well through the passage of time as what this does.
But a lot of people don't watch it because as soon as they see Gallipoli, they say, oh, it's a war film. So some people are very adverse to watching war films.
See, before Peter Weir came back onto the stage, did you notice who helped make it?
No.
Rupert Murdoch. He was the one who made it possible.
Well, there you go.
The one good thing he did in his life.
That's
Rupert
all right.
Murdoch and some other rich bastard.
Can I just say there was one thing that I found a bit weird?
Yep.
The starting credits.
In the heavy red Gothic lettering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a bit... I found that a bit... it gave off the vibe of we're very old. That could probably... That is the only thing I reckon that could change
aged,
slightly.
Yes, I'm sure.
And I looked at it and went, it gives the vibe of like a 60s made...
Font technology, possibly.
Oh, well, even just the... just ages of it. If they could... Something else, how these days when they're putting the credits up, they've got something happening underneath or,
Yeah, it was a brutal film. And if you've not seen it, people from overseas, as war films go, and you like a good war film, check this out because it is an extraordinary film.
Or even if you don't like war films, it's actually not a bad film.
It is quite hard on you in the last half hour or so, isn't it? But it's done generally with a good sense of humour all the way through it.
I wouldn't say humour, but just caring sort of...
Mateship.
Thank you, mateship.
Yes, and all of that
stuff.
That's what
we like. We like mateship.
They wanted to show it, and I think they showed it in abundance. They had a lot of trouble making this film, and they did all of the Gallipoli scenes down on the beaches in South Australia, and they were having a lot of trouble with sand and wind because the wind had come up off the Antarctic and blow, and they were all walking around with sand goggles on most of the time.
Yeah.
And then they'd wait for a drop in the wind, and then of course they'd try and shoot a scene, and then they'd
It would have been hard.
Yeah. So they look. I listened to quite a few.
Did they do any of it overseas?
Well, they did.
Because
they did the Egypt stuff in Cairo itself on location and around the pyramids, and some of those shots, like there was one particular shot where they shot the Pyramid of Giza in the dusk with the.
Didn't that look beautiful?
It still looks fantastic. It was a very cinematic set piece. It really was.
Well, when you've got it there,
yep.
Why wouldn't you?
Yep. And look, and he pulled a lot of. It was generally quite accurate, except for the neck battle scene, which
they didn't go into the neck. Oh,
well, the premise of the fact that it was a diversionary attack, and it wasn't because it was actually to link up with Suvla Bay. That was the whole point. They needed to knock out the neck, and then they could push up onto the ridge, and then they'd come down the other side, and they'd link up with the British.
I assume they'd done it for storyline purposes.
Yes. So, but anyway, did you know the guy who? Sorry, the guy who was in charge of the Suvla Bay landing was considered one of the most incompetent generals of the First World War. Now that is a very low bar. When they went ashore, he actually just didn't even bother waking up. He just slept through it.
Well,
that's pretty calm, isn't it?
That is very calm.
It's very calm. And consequently, it got ashore, and of course then it came into contact with the Turks, and it all fell apart.
Wasn't one of the lines, I'm not saying this is true, but one of the lines in the film was they're sitting on the beach having a cup of tea.
That's not actually particularly accurate.
I know, yes. I just like the line.
Yes, it's good, isn't it? What happened quite a lot, the landing craft that the British used were these kind of freighters, and they had a ramp like a crow's hook that dropped down in front, and you only had enough room for one soldier at a time to come through it. And so what the Turks were doing was, as and it